Hey guys, how's it going? So, full disclosure, I'm wearing a wire. However, you can tell I'm not a Fed because you can see it. Just wanted to say that for starters. But yeah, thank you guys for coming and listening to me talk. It means a lot to me. And yeah, we're just going to sort of get into it here. So, Shalom Aleichem, Chavarim. I'm speaking to you all today out of urgency. When I started to plan this talk, I thought I'd sort of be talking about Yiddish culture in a very abstract sort of way. I'd be putting on my culture journalist hat, talk a bit about kitsch, a bit about klezmer, aesthetics, memetics, but rather I have to talk about things that are concrete today, concrete reality. So when Josh suggested I talk about my experience doing rapid response, I definitely felt the importance of the topic, but still in those early days, not the urgency so much. I imagined talking about eydes zayn, which is in the title of the talk, which means bearing witness in Yiddish, discussing the place of this in Jewish culture and history, and again, talking abstractly, but like I said, I have to talk about concrete reality right now. And I apologize for the alarmism of this talk, but again, we're living in a very urgent moment, and sounding an alarm about that is sadly necessary and has been for a longer time than many of us realize. You start to realize sort of how urgent these moments have always been. When you walk into the streets you grew up in, you get flashbanged, attacked with rubber bullets, pepper sprayed, you get attacked by your own government, you understand concrete reality much better. And you don't only understand better the plights faced on your own streets, in your own nation, but the plights faced in all nations of the world at basically all times. Real bullets and real grenades fly freely from Gaza to Ukraine. You realize the gravity of the moment too, and every moment when two people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, are murdered by your own government in broad daylight on the streets that you're used to biking down without a worry. It puts the world in stark perspective. For example, the dozens of Venezuelans who were murdered in a political stunt to abduct their leader and take control of their country and oil reserves. That all comes into much clearer vision, what that means. When local activists like Nikema Levy Armstrong and Chantal Allen get arrested, when people who are, like me, journalists, Don Lemon, Georgia Fort, and others get arrested, when friends, maybe even people in this room, get detained, it makes the horrific photos of El Salvadorian prisons right now all the more real. And even if these activists and journalists and neighbors get released for the moment, greater evils are around the corner. We take the minor victories, but we don't stop paying attention and doing the work that we all need to do in this moment. Detainees are being released for now often until ICE finishes building the dozen new prisons that they're planning to make all around the country. Far-right influencers like Jake Lang are chased out of the city, soaked in piss, for now, while militias of Proud Boys and 3%ers numbering potentially in the thousands collect intel on our communities, on our response capabilities. We shut down 26th and Nicollet to mourn the murder of Alex Preddy, while undercover federal agents and far-righters go incognito and case local businesses, posting sensitive information in far-right forums about them. The day that Alex Preddy was murdered, I was posted up in a business for much of that day with my medicine bag. And then the next day, we heard reports that a far-right forum had posted sensitive information about that business, referring to it in extreme and incorrect terms as an armory. Greater threats and evils are around the corner. We often forget too that the idea of conspiracy does not necessitate being in private. There's no need for a conspiracy theory when our leaders in government are openly conspiring against us, the people. Slave catchers, the Gestapo, they come out of the grainy black and white photos into full color and high definition. When you run out of the way as the member of an armed, masked secret police chases down and tackles a pregnant woman, leaving a knee on her back for about as much time as it took the knee of a Minneapolis police officer to murder George Floyd. And this case of the pregnant woman is one I saw myself from feet away. The government has abandoned the people that it professes to protect. The status quo, which has coddled many of us for far too long, is crumbling in this moment. This can be felt from normal folks like us on the ground, in the community, to the highest halls of power. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada recently said the following at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. He said, "Today I will talk about a rupture in the world order, the end of a pleasant fiction and the beginning of a harsh reality where geopolitics, where the large main power geopolitics is submitted to no limits, no constraints." Fascism is a totalizing ideology. It seeks to do so much that you lose track of how fast society is changing. Just yesterday, I learned about one of the myriad of actions that has been taken by the current administration, which is very frightening, but little discussed because it's kind of abstract and kind of boring. So for months, the current government has been aggressively investigating Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the world's most powerful public financial institution, which regulates the world's most powerful currency in the most powerful nation in the history of the world. It is the chief regulating counterbalance in our global financial system and is more than likely about to be placed in the hands of a lackey, someone who is either a fascist or a kiss-ass and functionally probably both. Corporate giants from Amazon to Google to Meta have bent the knee and kissed the ring of fascism, and we must be ready to live despite them. They've shown their hand in collaborating with ICE, with collaborating with our government, which says that you're nothing more than data and capital to be mined. They'll surveil you relentlessly. They will inform on you to the fascists in power. There's no comfort or warmth to be found in the cold, convenient arms of corporate efficiency. Cold, convenient arms will do what is cold and convenient for themselves. Powerful Jewish institutions and powerful Jews can also not be relied on right now to keep us safe. The Anti-Defamation League, which has for years professed to protect us Jews, has been cut off by the FBI. They will not keep us safe. Mark Zuckerberg of Meta will not keep us safe. Alex Karp of the military software corporation Palantir will not keep us safe. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner will not keep us safe. Stephen Miller, who is the descendant of Holocaust survivors who more than likely spoke and lived the Yiddish language and culture that we are here to honor and celebrate, the orchestrator of the current brutal occupation of Minneapolis, he will not keep us safe. We will keep us safe. With the corporate billionaire class let loose without any sensible regulation of a global financial system which is already a Frankenstein's monster of inequality, the net worths of the richest are certain to balloon to levels of meaninglessness previously unknown. People often talk about how these numbers in the millions and billions are too large for the human mind to comprehend, and it is because they are. These numbers are meaningless. The only currency that will ever be worth a damn in our world is trust. Trust that you have food will feed me. Trust that you, of kind heart, will hold me when I'm crying. Trust that if I disappear from a hectic scene in the streets of South Minneapolis, you will drive to the belly of the beast at the Whipple building and fish me out of the clutches of a cold, cruel, calculating, bureaucratic concentration camp and bring me to the relative safety of a home and the infinite safety of an embrace. At the beginning of December, I would have cringed at the idea of giving a speech like this. So blatant, so emotional, so fearful. One of our Klezmer Chaverim here in Minnesota gave me this whistle in early December, and I did not know in that moment that days later I would be in sub-zero weather as the lone witness to a random Hispanic neighbor being forcibly stuffed into a car by masked federal agents. I did not know that I would have my picture taken, more than likely put in a database by hostile ICE officers days after that. I did not know I would be discussing the possibility of live fire incidents, neo-Nazi militias in the street I grew up in. I did not know I would be wearing body armor under a leather jacket, waiting anxiously in a cafe less than a kilometer from my home because of potential far-right threats in the area. I did not know I would be printing out pictures of right-wing influencers and far-right symbols to give to the security of this very festival. Now I know with concrete clarity, as opposed to abstract understanding, that these are the stakes and this is the world that we are living in right now. I want to repeat again, trust is the only currency that matters. When me and my best friend met at 26 and Nicollet, an hour after Alex Preddy was murdered, they told me that if anything were to happen, that I had to run away with my med bag and that they would shield me. That if ICE went fully rogue, if far-right militias showed up to attack protesters, as had been threatened, that they would stand between me and a spray of bullets, both to protect me and the lives that could be saved with the tourniquet sitting in my bag. Concrete reality is telling us all one thing that we must take to heart and live our lives accordingly to. We must be the final safety net for each other. Whether we are privileged to live in a time where the status quo grants us relative safety or not, we must live despite the government and know again that we keep us safe. This is what concrete reality is telling us. I promised in the description of this talk, which I wrote more than a month ago, to discuss our Jewish community, to talk about Yiddish land and the Midwest and Minnesota. And again, I have little to say in the abstract, but more I want to say in the concrete about this as I talk a bit about our small community of Yiddishists here in Minneapolis. So I could ask this abstract question and maybe plan to do originally, like, what is Yiddish culture in Minneapolis? But it makes no sense to ask the question when you're living the culture. We're all sitting here right now at a Yiddish cultural festival where culture is being created and shared and enjoyed. It's easy also to be mystified or disheartened by these questions, like what might Yiddish culture mean to us in Minneapolis? And it's kind of scary. We don't have points of reference for it. We don't have the same communal knowledge of rich history like our friends in New York or other cities have. I think, however, this is a very beautiful thing. While intensive histories and institutions can give us cultural security, they can also burden the courage, the creative spirit to chart new paths. So when I say what is Yiddish culture in Minneapolis, I think for many of us it remains an unanswered question, something to ponder, something to contemplate, something we continue to live despite our questions about it. Many of us look out east to New York or further to the Pale of Settlement to find these nuggets of truth and jewels of wisdom and affirmation that we are who we are as Yiddishists. But we need not sequester ourselves to only look at these pre-existing monoliths of Yiddishkeit, which already stand firmly, because we're creating our own as we speak. It's nothing short of a mechaya, a gift to me that we get to decide collectively what Yiddish Minneapolis means, that we get to create something truly revelatory and liberatory with this open question of Yiddish culture in Minneapolis. Many of us are, by the necessity of this assault and brutalization of our neighbors, distracted from creating and living this culture that we love. But when a future arrives where that space for intense creativity returns, we will get to decide for ourselves that these values that are intensifying and getting branded with fire into our hearts of trust, community, solidarity, that these are what Yiddish culture in Minneapolis means. we all know the ethos, especially here in South Minneapolis, the silly DIY, unabashed fun and creative spirit of this place, and how that same spirit is now fully focused on protecting our vulnerable neighbors at all costs. So may that same creative spirit commune with those of our ancestors to deliver us into a future of security, a future of trust, a future of dignity, and a future of peace. Even if others might ignore or sideline or downplay the validity or the significance of the culture we create here, I want to tell you all one thing, which is that no one can take from us what we are still in the process of creating. So a story known to many in the Yiddishist community comes to mind with all of this. I'm sure people in the room know it, but it's worth repeating. It comes from the Nazi occupation of Poland in the city of Lublin. There were a ton of Jews who got rounded up, brought to a field in the city, and the sadistic officer in charge asked them all to sing and dance, to just sing and dance for us. And at first, one member of this crowd starts singing this song that goes, Lo mir zechi berbeten, which means it's a song about making up. It's sort of a traditional wedding song about making up. And that went on for a second until another person in this crowd decided to start shouting something else, singing something else much louder. And that phrase was, Mir werden sie überleben, which means we will outlive them. To their face, they said that. So I'm really deeply honored that you all have taken the time to hear me speak about our current moment. I do want to impress upon you that the time to be alarmed has not arrived, but the time to be alarmed has only revealed itself. Revealed that for forever and a day, the time to be alarmed has always been here. It has been lurking in the corner, waiting to wake us all up from our slumber. I'm honored too by the presence of some of our out-of-state friends here, Ilya and Sarah, who are blessing us with their musical wizardry from Brooklyn, our merry gang of friends from Chicago who've shown up, everybody who's shown up. You all have come to South Minneapolis to a cultural festival full of Jews actively resisting their occupiers. You've come knowing that 2 people were murdered in these streets this month for acts of love so simple that you know they could have been done by yourself. You've come knowing what you might have to bear witness to. You've come knowing that the streets that you are walking on are fresh with wounds, only being cut deeper by the day with the anguish of our immigrant neighbors. So for this, I say thank you very, very deeply. Thank you for being here and being with us. I've talked a lot about Minneapolis in particular and what's happening here. And while the eyes of the world are focused on us right now, the horrors implicate our entire species and our entire world. So I want you to take home this experience you've had here and let it push your community towards safety and justice. I also want to thank, in particular, Josh, who very much instigated this talk happening and really pushed me and encouraged me more so to do this, and also did most of the work for this festival. And then, yeah. And then I also just want to shout out some folks in the community who mean a lot to me, and they're and this is a non-exhaustive list. This is a fucking non-exhaustive list. I just want to let you know, non-exhaustive, but people who I probably wouldn't have the courage to stand up here and talk about this without, because of all of your love and encouragement. So I'm talking about Daniel and Shira and Sam and Sasha and Stefan and our Sarah, Devin and Hannah and Eliana and Katie and so many more people. Thank you so much for making me feel like an accepted and valuable part of this community. It means a lot to me. And I want to say to everyone sharing the room and space with me right now, anyone potentially watching a recording of this, I love you. I love you very deeply with a greater sincerity than I could ever imagine expressing. Well, the concrete and intense actions to make us safe, be it gas mask distribution, the creation of private security networks, knowing who on your block can stop the bleeding if it becomes necessary. I want to say too that deepening the bonds of our community through events and festivals like this and other common but radical acts of love and togetherness keep us safer than any gun, any riot shield, any bunker can. In all seriousness, free hugs to anyone who wants them, just saying. Also, right after this, there is going to be a beautiful concert by our guest artists, Ilya and Sarah, who've come from Brooklyn once again, for their really awesome album, Electric Rose, which I implore you, please stay for that. So yeah, dance and enjoy as a way to actively rest. Let yourself be enveloped by the burning passion and mystery of music and dance. Let it fill up your heart with a fire so strong that it can melt anything. Fuck ice and Zig is in.